What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Battle in the Trenches, Week 11 edition in the NFL. We got your stardom, sit-em, wide receivers here. Check out the link at the end of the video for the running back and quarterback tight end video. If you're not a subscriber already, you're going to want to subscribe. We got you on these videos every single week. We're going to help you win your fantasy football championship. It's the playoff push, so you cannot take any more risks. You got to trust our videos. We're going to help you win your fantasy football matchups to get you to the playoffs, to help you win a championship. Check out the website, climbthepocket.com. Like I mentioned, drop a comment, like the video. We really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get into the starts and sits at the wide receiver position. I will lead us off with my stardom wide receiver of Justin Jefferson versus Dallas. If you watched the video last week, I did have him as a sit. That game did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I will eat my words. Justin Jefferson had a fantastic game. A lot of catches, a lot of targets, a lot of yards, going against a really good defense. I think that's kind of what's going to happen when they're playing a good defense. They're not going to be able to run the ball like they usually want to with Dalvin Cook. So these tough matchups actually might be decent matchups for their wide receivers like Adam Thielen, who had a couple of touchdowns, and then Justin Jefferson, who had a lot of yards. And they're going against Dallas, who's, we know, they just came off a bye week, but don't forget about how bad their defense is. Their defense is bad. Justin Jefferson is going to eat. I think he's just growing and growing, becoming one of the better rookie wide receivers we've seen in a while. So I really like Justin Jefferson this week to continue to be fed the ball. I'm also starting Christian Kirk against Seattle. We're going to attack that Seattle defense. The game last week was a little disappointing for those Rams wide receivers. I know I said Robert Woods would be a good start. Josh Reynolds got a lot of the targets. Cooper Kupp. It was just not really a great game overall, especially for Seattle. But I'm still going to attack that defense. Christian Kirk has had some pretty good games down the stretch, and Kyler Murray's playing like an MVP level. I know he's running a lot of balls in, but he's continuing to find Kirk on those deep balls. So I think Christian Kirk could definitely have one of those big, deep touchdown passes this week. I like him for 4 to 5 catches, over 80 yards, and possibly a touchdown. So Christian Kirk, start him in your lineup this week. Who you start, Ryan?
It's not a week of fantasy football if I'm not starting somebody against my putrid Philadelphia Eagles. So
Let's get it.
Got to fire up Jarvis Landry this week. The Philadelphia Eagles defense is bad. If you've been in check with any of the Philadelphia Eagles news, all they do is rotate their defensive backs around positions on a week-to-week basis, thinking it'll be a better lineup than it was the previous week. So I don't even know who's going to be starting in the slot this week. Sometimes it's Avonte Maddox. Sometimes it's Nickell Roby-Coleman. They've moved Jalen Mills back to safety, back from corner, back to safety. So there's no continuity with this Eagles defense, and they're not good against the pass. It's just, for some odd reason, they're just never good. They're better this year than they have been in previous years, but I don't think Jarvis Landry sees Darius Slay, so I think he's going to be a pretty safe play, especially with any type of misdirection because Nick Chubb's back. The Eagles get fooled on literally every single bootleg. That's a plug. So I expect Jarvis Landry to be pretty solid in any type of play action situation. I'm also starting Amari Cooper. This might be one of those weird Amari Cooper games where he has 150 yards. Minnesota's 27th in pass defense. If you watched the Chicago Bears take on the Vikings gave up a lot of plays downfield that Nick Foles just didn't connect on. I think it was 4th and 7. It was the final play really for the Bears to finish the game and try to win, where he had Anthony Miller over the top, and I mean he missed him by 5 yards, but Anthony Miller would have walked in if it was a good throw. So Minnesota is definitely susceptible to the pass, and like you talked about, the Cowboys are terrible against the pass, and I expect this game to be a high score just because Andy Dalton should be back, and they're going to throw the ball because Zeke Elliott just is not a good running back anymore. I don't know what happened to him. That's a different video. So those are my two starts. I feel pretty solid about those two guys, especially in daily fantasy, just because I feel like Amari Cooper's price is just dropping.
Yeah, he's going to be a good value in your DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. Let's go ahead and move on to the sit-em wide receivers. And I'm sitting the rookie for the Denver Broncos, Jeudy versus Miami. I think he's going to see a lot of Xavier Howard. And Miami's defense just overall is playing well, like I mentioned in our other videos. Jeudy's getting targeted, but if Drew Lock is really out this week, which we most likely are going to see, and Brett Rippon's in there, I don't think this is going to be a game for any of the offensive skill players. Noah Fant is not going to have a good game. You mentioned the running backs and the running back videos. Melvin Gordon, I don't think he's going to have a good game. I think the Denver team is going to struggle. They're looking like one of the worst teams in the league. And Jerry Jeudy is certainly talented, and we've seen him produce a couple weeks ago. Like I mentioned, a lot of targets, but what are these targets worth coming from a backup quarterback? Not much. I don't trust him this week. Really, like I mentioned, Xavier Howard playing really well that defense. So I don't like Jerry Jeudy this week. I'm also sitting Michael Pittman Jr. for the Indianapolis Colts going against Green Bay. Is he the number one in Indianapolis? I think so. I don't think that the Packers would waste Jair Alexander going against like T.Y. Hilton. I think they would much rather put him on the bigger, more physical receiver in Michael Pittman. I don't know. Does your facial expression agree with that?
No, I do. It's a terrible time to be alive, Steve. I'm a big T.Y. Hilton guy, so just hearing that like the rookie second round wide receiver is better than like not that old T.Y. Hilton, it hurts. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts, but it's the correct statement. You're right. Pittman looked tremendous last week.
He did. He looked really good. He got a lot of targets. He
Alexander's a freak. I mean, there's a reason why you're saying Pittman is their wide receiver one. I mean, we both watched that game. That game was like Pittman looks like he's going to make the next step pretty soon. I mean, he's been banged up a bit, but it's a real tough matchup for him this week.
Yeah, I think this is a game that the Indianapolis Colts are going to run the ball. They're going to use Nyheim Hines. They're going to use Jonathan Taylor. Yes, Jonathan Taylor will get used, and I think that's what they're going to attack. I think Green Bay tries to attack through the air, and I think the Indianapolis Colts try to attack through the ground. I think that's what's going to happen, and I don't think it bodes well for Michael Pittman. So I don't like him this week. You know, you might be chasing the points off of what you had last week. You might be in a super deep league where you have to start Michael Pittman, but in any other league, a 12 or 10-man league, I'm not rolling him out there even as my flex. I'd want to see it. If he got it done against Jair Alexander and the Green Bay Packers, or even another good quarterback for the Packers, maybe I would consider starting him the next week, but I'm just going to put him on my bench this week. I'm not going to go chase the points. So who you sitting?
This one kind of stings just because he was off to a pretty solid start, and he was great. I mean, he was great last year. And that's DeVante Parker. He's going to play Denver. It's going to be the weirdest game of all time. If Brett Rippon's in there and the Dolphins defense gets home a couple times, there could be some defensive points, and I don't think that Miami's really going to have to throw the ball very often. And on top of that, since Tua's been the starter, DeVante Parker's averaging 3 catches for 30 yards a game. It's not going to get it done. That's frustrating at worst. It's infuriating at best, where he's probably a wide receiver too when you put him out there, but he's giving you numbers that make you want to rip your hair out. So DeVante Parker, I can't play him until I see a little rapport with Tua. I need to see Tua kind of connect on shots down the field. So I'm out on Parker for the time being.
He's got a lot more developing to do. Sorry to interrupt you, but he's got a lot more developing to do, and I think an off season really is going to do that for him. He didn't have a preseason this year. There's just a lot of learning going on. And right now, the Miami Dolphins are playing better than they expected, and they're just kind of managing games on offense and letting their defense do the work. So I think that's what they're going to continue to do. Tua will certainly get better, but a guy like DeVante Parker, even if he scores a touchdown, is probably only going to get you 10 fantasy points. And there's guys like Justin Jefferson out there and other guys who are putting up 8 catches for over 100 yards, and that's a much better game in fantasy than just 30 yards and a touchdown. Like, it's not really what you're going for. And if he doesn't get the touchdown, like you mentioned, 3 catches for 30 yards, that's not good. You can't feel confident.
Yeah, I mean, with Parker, he's one of those guys that you throw the ball near and he can make a play on. And rookie quarterbacks aren't usually going to try to do something like that. They need to see something as open, and that's kind of what's going on now. I think Tua's playing relatively safe. If he takes a couple of risks and throws a ball for a 50-50 ball to Parker, I think he will realize that Parker's a better wide receiver than he's seemingly giving credit to in his very early stages of his career. So hopefully they figure that out, but not in good faith am I starting DeVante Parker. And, dude, this one hurts too.
It does.
Got to sit my boy Michael Evans against the Rams. Like, he needs either a new home or, like, they need to figure out what to do with him, because similar to a rookie quarterback, Tom Brady doesn't like throwing 50-50 balls unless he's down by 30 and he throws a ball off his back foot while he's getting hit, and it's an easy pick. For some odd reason, they're using Mike Evans like they're using 30-whatever-year-old Gronk, where they're only using him in the red zone, or they're using him in the fourth quarter for chunk play yards. I don't know what's going on with them. He probably will see Ramsey. I still think he's most likely to see Ramsey. I think defenses know how good Mike Evans actually is. But the Rams are third in pass defense this year. I expect the Rams to be methodical moving the ball on offense, similar to how Tom Brady usually is, to where they're going to keep the ball out of Brady's hands. So I don't see a lot of opportunity for Mike Evans to have a huge boom game. Sure, he could break off a touchdown. That's all in vain. But they're not really putting Evans in position to catch one of those over-the-shoulder 45, 50-yard balls, because I just don't think that's how they want to play offense. And Antonio Brown, it'll be his third game there. It's going to be interesting. I think they're going to start to dial it up more with Antonio Brown, more intricate routes. And Chris Godwin, hopefully another week with that finger is healthier. So that offense is good, and you really can't just pick Mike Evans and play him every single week.
Yeah, it's tough, and like you mentioned, I think you will definitely see Jalen Ramsey. We just saw Jalen Ramsey go against DK Metcalf and put up I think it was a season low for DK Metcalf. So take that as a grain of salt. Like, you need to definitely consider Mike Evans as stepping him back, maybe into your flex if you need to. But Mike Evans coming off a good game, a lot of people are going to be chasing that, but he does not play very well against really top end cornerbacks. They play him hard. They see Mike Evans. They know the talent. They know he's really good. And they're going to put Ramsey on him. And I think it's going to be a tough game, like you mentioned. I think it'll be a good game for Brown. I think Godwin could get going. I think those guys are the guys that bode well from this against this Rams defense. Jalen Ramsey's going to be locking down Mike Evans. So there you have it. Our start and sit at the wide receiver position. Drop a comment of all your questions below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out the running back video and the quarterback tight end video right here above me. You're not going to want to miss these every single week. We got you. We'll be back in week 12. Until next week, peace out.